screeching sound that is my PlayStation. Right, so as the title of the stream goes, I want to talk a bit about my thoughts on Daredevil in the most recent episode of She-Hulk, and maybe a bit about I want to talk a little bit about the series as a whole. I don't want to go too much on a tangent on it. To be honest, I'm waiting until next week, because next week is the finale of She-Hulk. You know, what a shame. You know, my birthday's in 2 weeks today, and the series is ending, or the season's ending, should I say, on, you know, the week before my birthday. So I'm gonna get stuck in. Daredevil in She-Hulk was exactly what I thought it was gonna be, and that was really good. You know, I have to admit, I do not like this show. I've only been watching it because I'm a committed Marvel fan, and I guarantee that there are going to be many connections that She-Hulk has to further MCU projects, because they're all connected. Let's not forget, this is the ultimate metaverse of the 21st century. Everything's connected, everything's been, you know, set up to correspond with each other, and, you know, I respect that so much. So even if I'm not the target audience for this show, I still respect it, and I still watch it to keep in the loop and, you know, not miss any pieces of the puzzle. Daredevil in Now, I've been watching season 1 and 2 of Daredevil. I've not finished it yet. I'm actually really excited to carry on watching it now that, you know, we've officially met Daredevil. We met Matt Murdock in No Way Home. We finally met Daredevil in She-Hulk, and I feel like, you know, we needed this ages ago. We really did need it. I'm glad that they kind of set it up later on in the series, because it's been something really good to look forward to, and you know, it was such a good payoff. It was amazing, honestly. I love seeing Matt Murdock and Daredevil in action. I think my biggest takes from this episode is that we're still, you know, Marvel is still very much being quite secretive over the continuity of the Netflix show, which I'm kind of glad about. However, I think they gave one massive hint which literally left me in chills when I heard this. I was so happy to hear it. The theme song from the Daredevil opening credits was, you know, it was played, it was used, and this is, you know, Marvel has been doing this a lot recently. Marvel has been reusing old tracks of it. They used the X-Men 97 track, they've used so many amazing themes, the Avengers theme, they've used the, you know, in No Way Home they had Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's themes. You know, Marvel is just amazing when it comes to using music to, you know, not only play on nostalgia but also, you know, integrate these stories into the MCU, and I just love it. I really do. You know, I think that scene alone, I feel like, was probably the highlight of the episode, to be honest. You know, the use of the Daredevil theme was just amazing. But yeah, as I was saying, I really think that Marvel is waiting, or is saving the big reveal as to what's canon and what's not canon in Daredevil Born Again, which honestly I think is really fitting. Like, it could be another J. Jonah Jameson situation where, you know, it's same actor but different character, or same character played by the same actor but different, I suppose. I don't think that's the case. I think it is canon based on the fact that they literally use the same theme. I think we're just going to be re-exploring who Daredevil actually is in Born Again, and also Echo as well, because Echo is set to be his next major appearance. Obviously, we meet Echo we catch back up with Echo again next year after her role in Hawkeye. So that'd be good, and, you know, I think we're gonna get some more teasers there, because obviously Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is also set to return in Echo. So we'll get some more hints and teasers as to what's canon and what's not canon in Echo, and then I think Daredevil Born Again will be the final. You know, this is what's canon, this is what isn't. You know, and hopefully, you know, by then I would have well and truly caught up with Daredevil and some of the other Netflix shows as well on Disney Plus. But you know, the fact they've all been added on makes me very confident that they are being reintegrated into the MCU lore, much like the likes of you know, the Tobey Maguire trilogy, the Andrew Garfield trilogy, duology, the X-Men movies, you know, Deadpool. It's all coming back. It's all coming together, and I can't wait for it. So, in terms of the stuff that happened, I think the fight between Daredevil and She-Hulk was chef's kiss. It was fantastic. I'm not going to turn this into a you know, me hating on She-Hulk, but I was really glad to see her get mugged off a bit, only because it reinforces Daredevil's experience. Don't get me wrong, she did get the upper hand in the end, you know, with the thunderclap, and you know, she, you know, briefly decapacitated his hearing, his radar, with the thunderclap, and she unmasked him. So she did win in the end, but he was mugging her off, man. It was so satisfying to watch. Just seeing Daredevil and Charlie Cox go at it. He's such a good, no, such an amazing actor, and you know, Daredevil is such a badass. He's literally a blind guy that. He's a blind guy that knows the lore inside and out. He kicks arse. He's such... Honestly, I feel like he gave better advice to She-Hulk than her own cousin did. Which I think is from, you know... Sometimes when it comes to traumatic experiences, sometimes outside opinions can be more impactful than family. That's not a fault on family at all, but, you know, sometimes there's a less judgment... less, you know, I loved it so much. I think that scene, you know, the bar scene between Jen and Matt was so well written. You know, considering the fact that I really disliked the writing of She-Hulk, I think that scene in particular was exceptionally done, and I do think that the writer must have been a bit of a fan, quite a big fan of the Netflix show. Because it really did give a lot of love, you know, besides the use of the Netflix theme, which I really hope is the main theme of Born Again, by the way. Like, that theme is so good, it's so simple, but just really, really sharp as well. I just love that theme so much. I loved the, well, I got really annoyed because the fight was cut short, but the hallway fight, between Daredevil and the goons, which I thought was a really cool, you know, before talking about the fight, Matt Murdock, Daredevil brilliantly, you know, articulated the difference between a henchman and a goon. That's such an excellent articulation and contrast between the two, because a lot of people tend to be quite, you know, oblivious to what the difference is, and he was bang on the money. You know, a henchman's somebody that believes in the cause and can, you know, fights for it as well. A goon's just someone that's there for the paycheck. I freaking loved it. You know, such a well written episode, and I feel like it paid so much homage to the Netflix lore. You know, it got me hoping that we'll see, you know, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, Punisher, all come back again, and the hallway fight. I gotta talk about it. I was so angry when the, you know, round 2 of the hallway fight was cut short, when backup came and She-Hulk just dropped through the wall, killing them. Like, you know, because that really annoyed me, because the fight at first, when he was just kicking arse, in the hallway using his I forget what it is, his billy club, the billy club, like the wire in the middle of it. That was so cool to watch. Honestly, I feel like I'm not gonna lie, I don't think anything will top the hallway fight from season 1, that was just literally one continuous shot, and the choreography was excellent. You know, there was no cutting. There was a lot of cuts in this scene, which a lot of people complained about, but to be honest, I think it was fine. You know, let's just remember that this isn't a Daredevil series, it's a She-Hulk series, so cameos and stuff, you know, well, this, you know, he was a special guest in this episode. Charlie Cox was. He wasn't just a one-off cameo. I feel like cameos are kind of, you know, I'd consider Ahsoka Tano in the Book of Boba Fett a cameo, not Daredevil and She-Hulk. I feel like there's a bit of a difference between a cameo and just a, you know, a guest appearance. But yeah, I absolutely loved the hallway fight and I really liked how the agility. Now the CGI kind of made it a bit more noticeable, but the agility of Daredevil in this episode. I personally think it didn't need too much CGI. Charlie Cox is well and truly shown how capable he is of hand-to-hand stage combat and stunt work as well. He's more than capable. Honestly, he is such a committed and driven actor. I love him so much. But yeah, I think on a slight negative in relation to the CGI and the use of CGI on Daredevil, it does kind of reinforce how stretched out the budget of this show is, which again, that makes me feel like it shouldn't have been 9 episodes, because, you know, with all the recent controversy over VFX workers at Marvel Studios and the you know, stuff that's come out about that, you can kind of tell, you can kind of see it through She-Hulk. The CGI is just atrocious. Visually, it's stunning, but that's because, of course, since Endgame was the first movie to be filmed on IMAX cameras, and I feel like that technology is now being integrated into all movies. You know, every film I've seen in the 2020s and, you know, the back end of 2019 just looks visually phenomenal. But with She-Hulk, it's kind of, you know, it's got some really pretty visuals. However, it's also got some really shocking CGI, and I think Daredevil, I just didn't see the need. Alright, okay, when Daredevil was, you know, free running and performing parkour down the parking lot, the giant car park, that made sense, because obviously you're not going to have Charlie Cox risk, or any stunt double risk his life jumping down, you know, car parks in wires. That's just not, you know, sort of CG. But when you know, he was you know, flipping over She-Hulk in their fight, I think the CGI was a little bit unnecessary, but again, it just reinforces how agile he is. So I think it's forgivable. Yeah, Daredevil, I think the humour. Now I want to talk a bit about the humour, because obviously Daredevil, the tone of the Daredevil series is it's a really dark show. You know, we literally had the Kingpin decapitate somebody with a frigging car door. That show is dark. It's so brooding. And, you know, She-Hulk, it's, you know, it has such a lighter tone. It's so light-hearted, and I loved that, you know, Daredevil was cracking jokes. He was, you know, he was having a good time. He was glad to be doing what he does. He felt happy doing so, and I think that was lovely. I don't really expect to see that for Daredevil Born Again. In fact, I think it'll be a bit out of place. But, you know, he's having fun. He's in LA. He's working away from Hell's Kitchen. He's branching out a bit. He's you know, taking on some heavy cases and some well-paid cases. I truly think that Matt Murdock was just happy to be in LA at the time. So I friggin' loved it. I loved that he was cracking jokes. I loved that he was having a laugh, and obviously, we had the hookup between She-Hulk and Daredevil. You know, Jen and Matt, which I thought was, you know what, fair play. I enjoyed it, especially you know, seeing Daredevil in costume doing the walk of shame outside Jen's house. I thought that was a really funny scene to watch, and just not something you'd expect from Daredevil. So do you know what, I say go for it. If the continuity is still canon, then he has had such a tough life. You know, I feel like it's quite appropriate to just give him some fun, because you know, when he goes back to fighting Kingpin again, it's going to be some really heavy stuff. And let's not forget, this guy is literally building up for an 18 episode first season. Yeah, 18 episode first season. That is literally that is longer than both seasons of The Mandalorian put together. It is 3 times as long as the majority of Disney Plus shows. It's twice as long as the likes of What If, WandaVision and She-Hulk. It's, you know, Charlie Cox has got a lot of work ahead of him soon with Born Again, and so things are going to get very dark and things are going to get very brooding. So it's nice to see him just have fun. You know, it must have been very fun for Charlie Cox to film as well, as an actor. You know, to have light-hearted scenes. He's a very brooding character. And let's not forget that in the comic books, Daredevil does crack jokes. He's not always this dark, brooding mass of a human. You know, and let's not forget that Frank Miller was the writer of Born Again. Frank Miller, he's written some of the best comic book storylines of all time, some most brooding and dark ones. You know, for example, he did Dark Knight Returns for DC Comics. I friggin' love that story. One of the best Batman stories going. So, you know, he knows how to write serious, he knows how to write compelling and really intense drama. I can't wait to see it be adapted onto the big screen on Disney Plus. I think it'll be excellent. So I see it as cutting some slack. In terms of, you know, She-Hulk has been very dependent on cameos. Let's not forget, you know, we've had Tim Roth as the Abomination, although I'd say he's more a series regular now. You know, we've seen him show up a couple of times. He is also set to show up next week as well, because of course the Abomination does, you know, there is a scene of him in a shirt which hasn't aired yet in the trailers and the, you know, promotional material. So we are definitely in for another Abomination appearance. I feel like this oh god, this cameo, or no, this guest role, let's just call it a guest role. This guest role I feel like did more than, you know, pointless fan service. I feel like it definitely delivered on fan service and definitely delivered. I feel like it did a bit more though, you know, which I'm really happy about. You know, this is what I wish we got more of in the show. I'm not saying more guest appearances, because we have plenty, but well used ones. I thought the Wong one in episode 4 was you know, don't get me wrong, I thought it was fun with Madison. You know, it's a very fun character, and I genuinely quite like Madison, but I just didn't feel like it was needed. You know, it's one of those. This is why I feel like She-Hulk should have been 6 episodes, and I feel like the main cameo, or, you know, I guess, you know, main guest star was always meant to be Daredevil. You know, Daredevil and She-Hulk have had run-ins in the past, and, you know, I feel like it just made more sense. Yeah, in terms of where I hope Daredevil goes after this, I hope that his experiences in LA do kind of stick with him. You know, meeting people that are quite like-minded to him. You know, meeting more lawyers in the firm. You know, just I just really enjoyed this episode. Again, I was really annoyed when She-Hulk just interrupted a second, because I feel like that was truly building up and setting up the big fight, you know, a big fight with Daredevil. And I know that it's She-Hulk's show, so he's not meant to take all the spotlight, but, you know, let's not forget that this is the first time we've seen Daredevil in action in a long time, and, you know, let's not forget that it's the first time we're catching. Yeah, we met Matt Murdock, you know, in No Way Home, but we don't know what it's been like for him and Foggy and Karen. You know, we don't know if they died in a blip or if they, you know, they survived it. You know, it's no secret that even if they did survive it, they wouldn't have shown up in Endgame, because, well, nobody really knew who they were. You know, they were so street level and, you know, grounded as characters that they didn't really go to many feats. You know, you had Spider-Man traveling and, you know, fighting all over the world, in Venice, in Italy, in London, in Washington DC, in New York. You know, it's no secret, you know, Spider-Man got around. He got around the world, and then, you know, you have the Avengers who have been fighting in Washington DC, London. You know, Japan, so many places. The Avengers are, you know, the Avengers are political figures or not political, but the Avengers are global figures. The Defenders are only street level, and I really like that. Now we are starting to explore more about the street level side, and it's kind of, you know, She-Hulk works for a global firm, you know, that also coincides with the prison that is being used for superheroes and supervillains. So it's nice that those kind of dynamics of the MCU are starting to cross over. I feel like that's going to be apparent with Spider-Man and his next outing in the MCU, whether it be through an appearance in Daredevil Born Again, or you know, his next movie. You know, God knows what's gonna happen. You know, I'm hoping that in terms of Spider-Man, we start seeing Daredevil and Spider-Man work together, not so much Peter Parker and Matt Murdock. You know, and I definitely feel like it's going to happen now more than ever, because Spider-Man's officially been, you know, regarded as a street level character now. And even Kevin Feige stated that Daredevil and Spider-Man are kind of the leaders of the street level world of the MCU, or they're the core figures of that side of the MCU now. And don't get me wrong, I still think that we'll be seeing Daredevil show up in many more MCU projects beyond Echo and Born Again. You know, I definitely think it's a possibility that we see Daredevil show up in, you know, in Secret Wars, in Deadpool, and, you know, the possibilities for him are endless. And I feel like this episode really did just kind of pay homage to and a bit of respect to Daredevil as a character. And, you know, part of me hopes that Foggy and Karen start getting mentioned soon, before we see, you know, I kind of hope that we see Foggy Nelson in Echo, and maybe Foggy, you know, maybe Foggy learns a bit of ASL, and you know, I can't wait to see the communication between Matt Murdock and Maya Lopez. Echo and Daredevil are going to have such a fantastic dynamic, because the truth is, we don't really know. You know, one's blind and the other's deaf, so there's going to be such an amazing dynamic there where they're just reading each other and they're communicating without words. It'll be such a beautiful thing. I can't wait for that. And, you know, this episode, I feel like the best thing this episode did is it really it built the hype for you know, I can't wait to sit down and watch the more Daredevil. I was gonna have a drink on Saturday and watch some Disney, just 'cause I love Disney. You know, all the classic Disney, you know, like Bolt, Toy Story, 2000s era Disney. I loved it, and the 90s as well. But I feel like I'm gonna sit down and carry on watching more Daredevil. I just loved it. I really did love it. Daredevil's such a compelling and fantastic character, and honestly, I think he is probably the one of the best street level fighters as well. Literally, I'll be taking this thought with me to the grave. The best hand-to-hand fighter in the MCU is Captain America Steve Rogers. You know, he is such a friggin' badass. I just love Steve Rogers. He's so good. He's so good. Yeah. Yeah, it's just Daredevil, Punisher. That yeah, they're all just amazing. Absolutely love them. I'm trying to think what else to say. I've given all my thoughts on Daredevil in the She-Hulk episode. I guess we can talk a bit about the other aspect of the episode itself. I know this stream's titled Daredevil in She-Hulk Thoughts, but you know, we've got a bit of time. The ending. I will admit, that was hard to watch. I'm a very big believer in respecting women's rights and just people's rights in general, no matter who you are. I don't mean to get all too soppy and you know, political, but just seeing that, you know, a sex tape that was, it wasn't filmed consensually. You know, yeah, she consented to having sex with Josh, but that is so. I don't want to filter my thoughts on this. So as much as I try and avoid it, I'm just gonna say that was fucked up. You know, that is so fucked up. I try not to swear on these videos, but I'm speaking from the heart here because, you know, if there was a woman in my life, or there's plenty of women in my life that I really care about, you know, my friends, my family. If I knew one of my best friends who are women, or any of my family members had to go through something, I'd lose the plot. Because that's such a fucking disgusting thing to do. Just filming, you know, sex tape. You know, porn exists for a reason, but that's agreed between two people. You know, the Pam and Tommy thing, that was different because they both wanted to film them having sex, which is completely normal. You know, sometimes people like to film what they do, but Jen had no idea what was going on in that scene. No idea that Josh was filming their one night stand, or that, you know, their hookup, and that just it was hard to watch. Not just as a fan of Marvel, but just as somebody who really cares about the people in his life. And yeah, I love my male friends. You know, I see them as brothers, both in uni and back at North Wales. But you know, there's so many women in my life that I just absolutely idolise and think the world. You know, my best mate is a woman, and it made me sick, honestly. It really made me sick watching something so disgusting. You know, this is a, you know, I am going to speak about this a bit more next week when the series does end, because I have, for the most part, really disliked this show. It's not, it's not, it's no secret that this show has probably been one of the least rated MCU projects in years. We've had shows and movies in the past few years not get good ratings because people have thought God knows what about him. This show was the one time where I kind of saw what they meant. There's been projects like Black Widow, Thor: Love and Thunder, where I frigging adore those movies. I really love them. Thor: Love and Thunder is in my top 5 favourite MCU films. I don't give a crap what people say. It was top 3, but honestly there's just too many I love, and it's hard to have. It's hard to have top. I find it hard to have top favourite MCU films and TV shows. Because I just love them all so much. I really do. I really do love them. But She-Hulk has been one that I've been quite strongly not fond of. However, as I said at the start, I watch it because I'm a Marvel fan. I love the MCU. It is my favourite franchise going. It's been, I don't get too. I've gotten really soppy, and I'm going to carry on getting soppy because I'm just speaking from the heart at this point. This year has been really hard. It's been a good year, don't get me wrong. 2022 has been one of the best years of my life, but it's been pretty hard as well. A lot of things I love, a lot of lifestyles that I've lived have been, they've come to an end. It's been difficult. My favourite TV shows ending. It's been mad, but this show in particular, I just haven't been too fond of it. I just haven't. My reasons for that, it's nothing to do with modern day politics. Absolutely nothing to do with that. The straight answer is it's just not for me, and that's fine. Not everything is. I watch it because I know that we are going to get more She-Hulk. In the MCU, she is most definitely going to show up in Secret Wars and the Kang Dynasty. She's definitely going to show up in other things like maybe even Daredevil Born Again, bringing it back to Daredevil for a second. So whatever you think about the character, she's a part of the MCU. She's here to stay. It's the same with Captain Marvel. A lot of people hate on Captain Marvel. I don't hate the character of She-Hulk at all, or Captain Marvel. In fact, I think the character of She-Hulk is really sweet and relatable. There have been a few directions of her which I don't really agree with. I don't really, some of the directions have gone with her I don't particularly think were good. But I think the character, I genuinely find her quite a likeable character. She's fun, she's light-hearted, and after really, dark and serious times in the MCU, where half the universe went and friggin' died, for God's sake. Half the universe frickin' died. Somebody just completely lost their identity. No, that's not a pun. I'm talking about Peter Parker. But Peter Parker permanently lost his identity. The MCU has had some dark times, so it's good to have somebody that brings light to it. However, I just don't think the show and the tone of the show or I don't think the demographic is for me, and that's completely okay. I can't say I'm going to be rewatching She-Hulk. I do plan to rewatch some of the shows when we start seeing more build up and payoff, when we start running into the likes of Captain America New World Order, the Scarlet Witch solo movie, if it does happen. I'm going to start rewatching MCU shows and movies, but She-Hulk is probably not going to be one, just because I haven't enjoyed it as a show. Don't get me wrong, I think it's had some great moments, but I hate to say it, those great moments have mostly come through the likes of special guests and cameos. I think if She-Hulk was given a bit more grip to the struggles of others, then yeah, I would find her a little bit more. You know, I find her like. The thing is, I have a lot of friends that remind me of She-Hulk, and I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm saying that as just it's a blatant, you know, reminder, and that's completely okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with that at all. You know. Yeah, and what I simply mean by that is that they're good people, but they're just difficult to open up to. You know, I feel like She-Hulk is not. She doesn't really show much interest in other people. I'm not, you know, I'm not saying that makes her a bad person. I'm just saying it makes her a little bit more selfish than the others. And I'm not getting into the debate on who's the most selfish character in the MCU, because I know who people point at. And let me just remind that he literally died to save the universe. Yeah, I don't even need to say his name, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, just going back to that scene where She-Hulk loses her temper, she punches the TV, you know, she discovers the threats of the intelligentsia. That scene in particular, because I did go on a tangent, that scene was not nice to watch at all. In fact, I think that scene was... I think the intention behind that scene was really, really... It was good that they addressed something like that. It really was good that Marvel is addressing that issue, because it's such a real problem, especially for women. You know, topic related, you know, issue-based storylines are a very important thing in pop culture and in, you know, on TV and film and theatre. And honestly, it's issue-related storylines that are my driving force for why I want to be an actor and writer and director and storyteller. You know, so I'm glad that Marvel did raise that issue, because I feel like Marvel tackles issues really well. You know, in the past we've had Iron Man's anxiety, Thor's depression, Captain America's, you know, inability to fit in with the world. I feel that's a very important story that a lot of people struggle with. You know, identity and self, you know, understand self-worth. You know, Captain America literally put everyone above himself, and then the moment that he makes a decision for himself, the fan base say he's selfish, this and that and the other. And even like one of my closest friends thinks that, and we have some really interesting discussions about it. I'm not saying that she's wrong, I'm saying that, you know, I'm wrong to her, and I'm saying in her eyes I'm wrong, and in my eyes she's wrong, and I think that's a really interesting dynamic. She's a really good friend of mine, and you know, I love that Marvel can evoke those discussions. However, I feel like with She-Hulk, a lot of people have taken these discussions way out of context, and this is one where I feel like we need to kind of start singing from the same hymn sheet on, even if we don't agree. We just need to agree to disagree on problems like this, because let's face it, women do have this issue. You know, I watched Pam and Tommy earlier this year, around April and March this year, or even February, I can't remember. And you know, I really enjoyed that show, and it made a very, very good point. a very good point, and that is that when sex tapes are released, men are seen as being really cool. You know, they're the cool guy that you know had sex with someone really pretty, or you know, and the women are seen as items. They're seen as objects. They're treated as something really disgusting, and that is such a serious problem. And I do think that She-Hulk addressed it. It addressed it well. Yeah, it was difficult to watch. It was heavy, and I feel like Marvel is good at, you know, being real to the world. You know, that I'm a big people person, so even though, you know, it's just a character and stuff, I partly genuinely thought She-Hulk shouldn't be dealing with that. That's not something She-Hulk should imagine. And honestly, I don't want to get into the villain debate about who's the worst villain in the MCU. I don't even see Josh as a major league supervillain, but you know, I want to see Josh get the crap kicked out of him. You know, I want to see somebody go, you know, do to Josh what Spider-Man did to the Green Goblin at the end of No Way Home. I want to see Josh get brutalized for that, because that's such a disgusting and inhumane thing to do. It's, you know, it's disgusting. And obviously I know that Josh isn't the main big bad. It's most likely going to be the leader, which, you know, bleeds into Captain America New World Order. You know, it's no secret that that's going to be the case. It's all coming together. It's all being tied in a nice little bow, and it's going to come out that, of course, the main villain of She-Hulk is the leader, or something related to the Hulks. And you know, I think that using that was a bit, you know, I wonder, was it so necessary? Was it, you know, did they have to do that? I'm not a big She-Hulk comic book fan. I've never read a She-Hulk comic in my life. You know, a lot of these characters that are being introduced in the, you know, in the series that I've never really known about. You know, never known any of them. So I'm very new to, like, does that happen to She-Hulk in the comics? Does her, you know, a sex tape that was filmed against, you know, filmed without her knowing, get leaked? Is that something that happens? Because that's just I think that's taking it a bit far. And I feel like that's also going to spread the image of you know, villainizing men even more, which I feel like this series has kind of done a bit. I'm not, you know, I don't want to get into the all men debate either, because that's just a stupid, you know, debate. You know, but I feel like the series has played most men off as being quite dumb. Literally, Daredevil being the only exception from tonight's episode. He's the only one that hasn't been portrayed as a total melt, which I think is a bit, I don't know, I think it's a bit ridiculous, if you ask me. You know, I just find it a bit absurd. But yeah, that's what I have to say on that matter. And I did close off what I thought on Daredevil and She-Hulk, so I don't really have much left to say. Obviously the finale drops next week. I hope it's a good one. I do hope it's a good finale, because Marvel, I feel like Marvel tends to kind of knock it out of the park with their finales. You know, they did with WandaVision, they did with Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, Hawkeye, Moon Knight as well. Oh my god, the Moon Knight one. I hope it's a good way to finish off the last Disney Plus show of 2022, the last one of Phase 4. You know, the next Disney Plus show we have will be Secret Invasion, and that's going to be the first one of Phase 5. I hope it's good. I really hope it's good. I'm sick of my favourite. I'm so sick of my favourite franchise having the worst and most toxic fan base. I feel like Phase 4 just brought out the worst in Marvel fans. I think we can all agree on we can all agree on two things: that No Way Home was great and Moon Knight was really good. Everything else, I think, it just comes down to really disgusting bickering. You know, it's great to disagree, but I think when you're being really disrespectful over what other people think and saying they're this and that, I think it's just a bit overboard. Because let's not forget, it's not something that I feel like needs to be taken as seriously as it does. You know, don't get me wrong, I'm a die-hard Marvel fan, but I wouldn't ever be rude or disrespectful in the way that a lot of fans have been. You know, I just find it beyond ridiculous, like beyond ridiculous. So yeah, you know, one more episode of Phase 4, one more movie of Phase 4 coming next month, and then on to Phase 5. Hopefully Phase 5 will be a much better start for you know, Marvel. I can't wait to see where the multiverse saga goes, because it's all connected. You know, it's all gonna build, you know, it's gonna pay off at the end of Phase 6 with Secret Wars and the Kang Dynasty. So yeah, let me know what you guys think on She-Hulk Attorney at Law, and I'm gonna say this as a person, not as a fan, and I'm just gonna let it out. Be fucking respectful. You know, just be respectful, for fuck's sake. Just stop with the toxicity. It's not what Stan Lee would have wanted. It's not what Jack Kirby would have wanted. You know, it's not what any of these creators that have, you know, gave their career and gave their life to telling these stories, not what they would have wanted. You know, and to all the women out there, yeah, you know what, I'm right. So the women out there that are facing issues, you know, that have faced the same serious topic as what Jen has faced in this episode, please know that there are people out there. There are people that will listen to your story. There are people that will validate, or not so much, you know, it's wrong that I have to say that, but people that will treat your story as valid as, you know, as it is. You matter, and you know, just know that you're not alone. Okay, I know it's a cliche thing to say, but believe me when I say you're not alone, and you're dealing with something like that. You know, and to anyone that thinks any of that is okay to film, people that think it's okay to film that there's a space in hell for you. there is a space in hell for you, and you need your hard drives looking at. You need, yeah. I'm so sorry that got so deep. You know, it's supposed to be me talking about Daredevil and She-Hulk, and I did. You know, I could have ended it. I could have ended the stream a while ago, but no, I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't ignore the problem. It's not. I'm not about that. If something needs to be said, I'll say it. That's the only thing I really wanted to talk about in the episode anyway. Yeah, Wolverine got teased. Red Hulk got a brief mention. Yeah, that happened. I don't really care, to be honest. I'm a bit disappointed that Marvel, you know, don't get me wrong, they I'm a bit disappointed that Marvel didn't give a bit of support to women going through that. You know, they addressed it, which is great, but I feel like that should have, you know, there should have been like a hotline or just a little note at the end of the episode to just kind of, you know, clarify on. Hello viewer watching, I hope you're okay. Yeah, it wasn't fun, so I'm glad that we got Daredevil. Well, he just fucked off, and never mind. I'm glad we got Daredevil in this episode, but honestly, I kind of wish that... I wish the episode ended when Daredevil left. I know they had to set up the finale, but I just think there are better ways. I really did. Yeah, that's it from me. Thank you for watching, or thank you for listening. If you know, just take into account what women go through. Okay, that's it from me.